Let's be honest, a lot of people already fell off the bandwagon. Okay, in the beginning of the new year, they're super excited to get into their health regimen. They have big goals for 2023. And 2 weeks in, they're like, oh my gosh, everything started falling apart. And they just like completely went off the bandwagon. So the fact that you are here, I am so proud of you. Congratulations. That means even if you didn't do it perfectly, you're still here. You're still taking that next step. So I'm super proud of everybody. This week, we're going to be talking about a couple of things. So number one is the importance of hydration. And we're going to talk about a couple of things that you probably don't even know, and you might be making that mistake. We're also going to be tackling stress and anxiety. How do we tackle that? Because that's a huge element when it comes to healthy living and just weight loss in general as well. So now moving forward, I want to actually bring up somebody that I was so impressed by when I saw this story in Wellness 360. I was just so excited to bring her on to share her story and her journey. Brandy, are you able to hear us? I think your story can definitely inspire a lot of people. If you could just give a brief background about who you are, where you're from, and how you heard about this community and how your experience has been.
So I met James about a year ago, and I started with the drop, and I had tragedy in my life where my dad passed away. I had a really hard year. I felt like I really need to start taking better care of myself. I have issues with reactive arthritis, and I was going through that for a while. I bought a house and I moved, and it was really stressful, and I put on a lot of weight over the year. I really need to start taking better care of myself. So I called up James. I said, I really need to start taking the Renew again because it made me feel better. Just more full of life instead of just dragging along and just drudging through each of my life days. So I started taking the Renew, and I started taking the drop, the Slenderize drops again, because I knew that my eating habits had really went down that year. I gained 30 pounds over the year. So I started taking the drops. I started taking Renew almost 2.5 weeks ago. I mean, people say, oh, if you just drink more water, get better sleep, and eat more nutritious food, you'll feel better. And it was really hard with the cravings and stuff, but with the drops, it just helped me stay on track. So in 2 weeks, I lost 7.5 pounds. I started exercising again, drinking a lot more water. That momentum is there. So I feel more on track now, more committed to my wellness personally, just with adding those two basic things. It's enabled me to be able to stay on track more, and lost another 1.5 pounds. And I feel much better. So some people say that it's overrated or whatever, and I don't believe that, because I've tried everything under the sun, and nothing helps get those cravings away.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Brandy. That is so amazing. And I totally agree, because I've tried eating healthy and I'm like, yeah, I can do this myself. I can just eat healthy and exercise and I'll lose the belly fat. And it's totally not as easy as what people say. It's all these cravings. And that's why we talk about the drops being your discipline, like a discipline in a bottle, because it really helps with all that craving. And it balances your body. It does so many things, like reducing your cortisol level with all these adaptogenic herbs. And so having those drops really helps target all these different aspects of our body and just overall healing our body. And I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of times we feel like, oh, this craving is just like, I've lived with this for over decades, I can't get rid of it. But you don't realize it's just your body craving healthy nutrition. It's okay if you had a bad day and had a cupcake, because we're living life anyway. So you don't want to be self-sabotaging yourself, because it's about healthy is about a lifestyle. It's not about being super perfect. And in fact, I heard this from one of the transformation coaches the other day, and she said perfection is a form of procrastination. Like, I can't get started unless I have a perfect meal plan and I never make a mistake. You're never going to get started.
Just get started now. The best time to start is now. NOW.
Exactly. I want to make sure that all of us are stay focused on just 3 main things, because let's not overcomplicate things. As long as you're using the products, just take your drops. If you forget it, don't worry. Just set an alarm and make sure you remember, and making sure you follow the approved food list. Not about a diet. It's really about giving your body the nutritious food that you need so you can heal your gut, you can balance your body, detox your toxins, and be able to live that life and have that vibrancy and all the nutrients you need, that your cells need, to be able to function properly at the optimal level. So make sure you stick with this list, because it's every single food on this list is meant to be anti-inflammatory and adding nutrients into your your body. And number two is making sure you're hitting your protein count. So if you're not familiar with this, make sure you go to Guide 1 in Wellness 360, calculate your protein count so you know how much protein. Next week, we're going to cover a little bit about how to just eyeball it. So when you're going out to eat, you don't need to carry a weight scale with you. You can literally just read the nutrition label and be able to eyeball how much protein you're having and be able to factor that in. And third thing is, are you drinking enough water? In fact, we're going to go to the next slide to actually just talk a little bit about water. So I know water is one of those things everybody knows that they're supposed to be drinking, but a lot of people just can't get themselves to do it. I knew that our body is made up of 70% water and it's so important for better skin and detoxification and all that, but I didn't know how many problems actually caused by dehydration. Mm-hmm. Did you know that if you actually feel thirsty, that means you're already dehydrated? And 70% of the US adults suffer from dehydration. Did you know that? So in a nutshell, if you're in front of 10 people, that means like seven, probably not this community because we've been teaching you that. But if you're talking to your friends, like over 7 to 8 people are dehydrated. Isn't that crazy? It boggles my mind. Have you heard people complain about fatigue? Like, I'm always tired, or I have a headache, mood swings, maybe it's my hormones, even bad breath, muscle cramps, or dry skin. Did you know these are all could be related to dehydration? And so I'll highly encourage you to check to see if you're actually drinking enough water, but not just any water, filtered water. So let's look at how many benefits there are. Just take a look at this slide. You can literally solve a ton of problems that you probably don't even realize. How many of you want better skin? You're like, I don't like how my skin looks, especially now I'm in my 30s. I can see all these things happening and I want better skin. Did you know drinking filtered clean water can actually give you clear skin, better skin? It's a toxic remover. It's a brain boost. So if you ever feel there's mental fogginess, it helps with that. It helps with calorie control. Did you know that a lot of times when we feel like we have craving or when we feel hungry, it's actually because we're thirsty. So if you drank water first, you're no longer hungry. And that's why a lot of times we feel like, oh, I'm just always hungry. And it's probably because you're dehydrated. So drink some water first and you probably reduce that craving. It also helps to normalize your blood, helps balances your fluid in your body, and also helps with fatigue. And so there's so many benefits. But how much water do we actually drink? And so the Slenderize program recommends at least 10 glasses of 8 ounces of purified water daily to help remove the toxins and flush out fat. You heard from Brandy, she mentioned that she just made sure she drank a lot of water. And that's so important because a lot of times our body's actually burning the fat, but because we're not drinking enough water, we're not flushing out the toxins. So make sure you do that. And one of the key things I want to emphasize, and this is something you may not know. Now, I grew up in an Asian household where we always had tea and water with food. It almost feels like I have to rinse down my food with water. Who here have like that experience? I always felt like I need to do that. And then I actually learned that's the horrible thing to do, because did you know that when you're eating, when you're chewing your food, your body is, or your stomach is secreting a lot of digestive enzymes. So if you're actually drinking water while eating food, water actually will dilute your digestive enzymes, which makes your digestion worse. So you're actually not able to digest as well. That's where it comes a lot of digestion problems. So you want to make sure that you don't do that. So how do you avoid that? Some people, if your food is too salty, you might be tempted to drink water when you're eating. And number two is if you're always in a rush, if you're like, I only have 2 minutes to eat this, and you might feel the need to down water to just rinse down your food. So avoid those things. Make sure your food is not too salty and make sure that you are not eating in a hurry. And the rule of thumb is wait at least 30 minutes before or after you eat to drink a ton of water. I mean, if you're sipping your water because you're choking, totally fine. But just make sure you're not drinking a ton of water and rinsing down your food while you're eating. So that's a big thing. If you're working out, you want to make sure that you increase your water intake. A general rule of thumb is if you weigh, let's say 200 pounds, you want to drink at least a minimum of 100 ounces of water, at least a minimum. More the better, but work up to it. And try to finish at least half of your water goal before noon So if you're like me and have a tiny bladder, you're not going to be getting up 5 times in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, because then you're not getting good sleep, and that's also not good. So I actually have my Purity water bottle here. If you know, our company has an amazing water bottle. This filter can filter literally 99.999% of all the microbiomes, heavy metals, and all the neurotoxins from your pharmaceutical drugs in the sewer, things that your typical Brita and a refrigerator filter is just not going to filter. And so this is really helpful to ensure that you have clean drinking water. You can literally just fill it with tap water, and every bottle holds 20 ounces. So every time I refill this, I just make a check mark in my planner to remember, okay, I finished one, and then I can count that way. So set a goal. You can even set alarms on your phone and work up to it. If you're the type of person that's not used to drinking enough water, or maybe you're super busy at work and you only have a short time of lunch break and you have to chuck down a lot of water, just make it a goal to work up to it. Don't stress out if you can't get to 10 glasses right away, but try your best. And it's all about progress, not perfection. Okay, so now I want to pass this to Lily actually to go over a couple more things. Don't stress out, because it's actually a big factor when it comes to weight loss. Lily, back to you.
Being Asian, you eat food and then drink tea thinking that's water, but tea actually, it's not the same as water. So even if you have soup, liquid, it's called liquid. No, you have to have water. So on that note, we're going to transition from hydration to this topic, because when you're hydrated, it's going to help also with stress. So the cortisol is the stress hormone. So I don't know if you guys can relate. I feel like the last couple of years with the pandemic and the inflation and our health, there's just been a heightened level of stress and anxiety in our lives. I've personally felt more anxious and more stressed than ever before. So I want to kind of educate you on what cortisol does. So when your body is stressed, you supply more cortisol, and impacts your ability to sleep, your energy level, and your ability to lose weight. So it's no fault of yours, but if you're educated, you're aware of it, what does stress do? It impairs your cognitive functions, also decreases your bone and your muscle tissue. And if you know that, you're like, wow, what can I do? It alters the blood sugar as well as your high blood pressure level as well. And when you're stressed, your immunity, you're going to be more prone to getting the common cold. So you want to make sure, I got to make sure I keep the stress at bay. And it does affect your abdominal fat, suppresses your thyroid. And so what can we do? I love this slide because it tells you all the free things that we can do to lower the stress and have a happier, healthier life, to keep the stress at bay. Do something free, like go take a walk now that the rain's over. Enjoy the fresh air, the sunshine, get your body moving, get out there and exercise, do some meditation and some deep breaths. Take a power nap if you're tired, and join a community. You're here tonight so that you're in community with other people, you're in a common goal, but also do things like eat well, but reduce caffeine intake. That can take the jitters and stress away. And I love this last one, is make a list. I like to plan tomorrow, today. Wake up and you're like, oh my God, you're just running around frazzled. But if you prioritize, you have a list of what you can do, what you're going to eat, and you're going to be more organized. And when you prioritize, your stress level goes down. And for me personally, what I like to do is I like to take a relaxing bubble bath with Epsom salt to relax the muscle and tightness. And it's just very relaxing. Also my opportunity to talk to God. If I go for a walk, that's what I do, Becky. I'm just curious, what do you like to do to keep the stress at bay?
Definitely taking a nap. Like, you'll be so surprised. I heard this from my pastor. Sometimes the most godly thing you can do is to take a nap. A lot of times we're just so exhausted physically. So don't be afraid to just take a nap. And one thing I want to say is I'm so glad. Did you know that your Accelerate has actually adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha and radiol, and that's actually how it's helping you reduce your cortisol level. I think a lot of people are seeing better results because even though they're typically stressed, but because they're taking the drops, they're getting that results.
Definitely. So this is what we can do freely, but on a nutritional side, I kind of want to talk about that as well. So what I want to focus on is this phenomenal multifunctional product called Magnical-D. And it's different than what people know. So Magnical-D, let me just put it in a nutshell, it's more than just a calcium supplement. When people have difficulty swallowing, oh, I'm stressed, I can't swallow my vitamins, or I'm just stressed, that's why I'm constipated. No, it's actually you're mineral deficient. So this is what this product is, bioavailable minerals that's necessary to survive. So I love the combination of this. The formulation is 1-to-1. 1 calcium to 1 magnesium doesn't lead to calcification of the vein like most other calcium supplement on the market. And what really is different about this product, the calcium is derived from a calcium citrate citrate and malate, not calcium carbonate, which is not absorbed to our body and leads to calcification of the veins. So I love this product because it actually has your magnesium, your calcium, the good calcium, your vitamin C, your D3, and your K2. And what the K2 does is it actually helps direct the calcium from your bloodstreams into your bones. And what people know as helps support. So when you're stressed, you got to make sure it actually strips your minerals. So you want to make sure you take that mineral back in your body. It helps strengthen your bone and your cardiovascular system as well, and helps with insomnia and digestion. So my story, and I've used this story for many, many years. My mother-in-law, now she's 98 years young. She loves a Magnical-D. She's like diabetic. She can't have prune juice. And she said, I love it because it helps me be regular. There's a reishi and shiitake mushroom. So there's a lot of ingredients in there that helps with digestion. I have a lot of clients that said, I can't swallow. I have to do the gummy. But once their body is given what it needs, it actually is not a problem. So that's why your body, I love the system because it balances it out. So nutritionally, I want to kind of point out to you what you can do as well to help keep the stress at bay. The Magnical-D is phenomenal. If you have trouble sleeping, take a couple extra at bedtime. It helps with the sleep. It lowers the cortisol. So on the other nutritional note, I want to go on to the next slide is what we can do to summarize tackling chronic stress, anxiety, and keep it at bay. Like what we said, be in a community with like-minded people on this health mission, share the wins. Like we just heard from Brandy, wasn't that uplifting? It's so encouraging. So we want to ask questions. We want to glean nuggets from other people who are on the program. And like I mentioned, the Magnical-D, did you know that 5 grams of a carb from sugar that we eat, the body needs 100 milligrams of magnesium to stabilize that chemistry? That's why most people are magnesium deficient. And so I like to say that magnesium is like the anti-stress mineral. So we need it. We need to put it back in our body. And you had mentioned the ashwagandha in the Accelerate. So you're on the program. If you're not on the job, most of you are. The second job is called Accelerate. It has the adaptogenic herbs in it. It reduces the cortisol level. So you're not hangry, you're calmer. And it actually helps with, and especially vegetarians, they're lacking in vitamin B. B actually is going to help with brain functions like chronic headaches and fogginess. Could be a deficiency of lack of vitamin B. So when people wake up with nightmares, it's an indication that they do have a vitamin B deficiency. So I like that this is a B12. It's mentholated, so it's not a synthetic copy. So there's a lot of B12s out there, so you got to be very cautious. But I love this because it's all natural, it's homeopathic, it's plant-based, and the testimonials speak volume.
If you are extra stressed, you're actually completely fine to take a couple extra pumps of the Accelerate. Instructions just says 1 full pump twice a day, but you can totally do 4 to 5, just really reduce that cortisol level. Totally fine to take a therapeutic dose.
Yeah, and then with the Magnical-D, if you are feeling like if you get leg cramps or you have trouble sleeping, to lower the cortisol, you can take an extra 2 at bedtime as well. Did you know it takes 21 days to actually form a good habit, but it takes 21 days to break that bad habit? So if you're not quite there yet, keep going. I encourage you, the Sunday reminding the checklist is to take progress photos, your measurements, and just track and even journal the things that you're like, I used to only be able to drink 60 ounces of water. I can't believe that by increasing a little bit each day, I'm now up to 80 because your bladder is a muscle. You need to work up to that. Like Becky said, if you can't do it, don't stress out over it. Just a little bit at a time, just increase it day over day. And it's not about perfection. It's all about progress. So I encourage you to keep going. And if you're just starting out now, well, you know what, this is day 1, let's go and be involved in the community.
It's one of the ways to actually reduce your stress is to be in community with other people. So when you do a post like that, or when you give love to other people's posts, you're actually, increasing your endorphins and you're sharing the love, you're receiving the love. And we're human creatures. We're meant to be in fellowship with each other. So make it a goal to do that. And don't keep it to yourself. Like if you feel like this call is helpful and you learn something, share with people that you care about, right? You invite them to Wellness 360. Everybody can be added to the community, even if they're not a customer yet. Thank you guys so much for being here.